Hello there, you're watching The Pulse on the Joy News channel. Coming up this afternoon, Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin slams U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris over what he describes as her attempt to meddle in the local affairs of the country by commenting on Ghana's anti-gay bill.
That is undemocratic. What is democracy? That somebody else will have to dictate to me as to what is good and what is bad.
Get the details from Parliament for you shortly. Meanwhile, the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris is continuing her tour here in Ghana, as she's been calling on world leaders to work together to make the future of Africa brighter.
Around the world must be able to fully participate in economic, political, and social life.
There's a lot more as we get you details of that major policy speech she made at the Independence Arch earlier today. Also, we'll be taking you to the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, where traders who've lost their products to the inferno at the Kejetia market are taking on authorities for preventing them from accessing their building.
Engaged in protests registering their displeasure against the management of the facility. The traders broke into the market, expressing their dissatisfaction. They say they were not directly affected by the...
We'll get you the latest. This is The Pulse. I am blessed. Sogah. Don't forget that we're live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144. The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Global Communities Digny Lu, Affordable Safe Sanitation. We'll get you the details and be my guest. Okay, then let's start off from Parliament because the Speaker of the House, Alban Bagbin, appears to be unhappy with some comments made by the visiting U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris when she insisted that Ghana and other African countries must protect the rights of minority groups, including those who have other tendencies. Ghana is currently considering a proposed legislation that will outlaw homosexual activities. But during bilateral talks yesterday with President Akufo-Addo, that issue came up at the joint press briefing where the president indicated that there's a substantial reform to the current anti-gay bill before Parliament. However, that has met the displeasure of the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin. Here's what he had to say.
Directed that no Reverend Father should celebrate over a gay or lesbian marriage. And I said, Roma locuta complete, causa finita. Yes, Rome has spoken, and the matter is ended. So please, committee members that will refer the bill to, we want the report. Don't be intimidated by any person. I made this statement when I was a member of the European Parliament. European ACP Parliament in Brussels. Now we have two of our members who happen to be leading our committee, Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, who are handling the bill. And since we referred it to them up to date, we have not heard anything. I've reminded him many times on the floor of the House. What are the challenges you are meeting? Report to us. If you take action against them, say, oh, because I'm MPP. That's why he's taking action against me. I'm NDC. Because he's taking action against me. Because he's not in my party. That kind of division, that is not the purpose of politics. Politics is meant to unite us. Diversity is natural. There's nothing you can do about it. That is creation. And that is the spice of life. How come we are using that to divide ourselves? Please, let the report flow. We need to legislate. Our friends just passed their law in Uganda. We may not go the way they have gone because our constitution is very clear as to the direction we should move. And so we'll be guided by that. Because if we pass any law against the constitution, it's unconstitutional. So we have to do that. And so what are you afraid of? If you have the whole people behind you, if God is with you, who can be against you? And if God says, please go into the wilderness, multiply and fill the world. That is God giving you that command. If somebody says, please, don't multiply, how can that person be strong? I don't only speak this way in Ghana. Even at the last meeting we attended in IPU at Bahrain, anybody who listened to my speech, there were sentences on this matter. Luckily, maybe because it's a Muslim country, they applauded me. If it's somewhere else, they will be asking questions. As the vice president just did yesterday. I mean, these things should not be tolerated. That is undemocratic. What is democracy? That somebody else will have to dictate to me as to what is good and what is bad? Unheard of. Because we have decided to devalue ourselves and go a-begging. Come on. We have more than enough. God has created more than enough for every person. It's just because you are looking at somebody else's share, not yours. We have enough in the world. The bill will be passed. This is the word to His Excellency the President. There is no way he can intervene. That answer he gave. That is now before Parliament. And when he gets to a stage that he will come in. Hey, please. This is legislation. This is not execution. Wait until we pass it and then we direct you to execute it. That is why you come in. That is why we are representatives of the people. So in terms of law, which is part of policy, we finalize it. And then the executive now have the authority to implement it, to execute it. Let's get this clear. Once this bill is before here, he is not in charge. I am in charge. I hope the U.S. Vice President is not yet gone, but she will read from me.
Well, let's get more from Parliament. Kweku Asante is our parliamentary correspondent. Kweku, what initiated this sharp response from the Speaker of Parliament? At least the expectation is that he would have been raising the concerns when our guest is not in town. So what's necessitating all of this?
Well, so there are some traditional leaders and as well as pastors called on the and he has concerns about the delay in the committee speeding up the progress of the bill. He had concerns that the chairman of the committee seemed to be holding up that progress of the bill, and that in particular, he wasn't excited about President Akufo-Addo's remarks when he met the U.S. Vice President, as well as the Vice President himself and the comments he made. So the context was the meeting with these religious leaders who we know are backing the bill, who have had significant concerns that over the past few months that this bill has been with the committee has not made any progress, for which reason they had cause to complain to the Speaker. And the Speaker said in those thinking that they had, for which reason he wasn't happy, went on the President, also took on the Vice President of the United States, as well as the committee which is tasked to deal with this bill, which has been done so for a while now. We know that the work is at the Constitutional, Parliamentary and Legal Affairs Committee. They are looking at it before they will present their report. It will move through to the consideration stage before, if it is passed, eventually at the third reading. But the Speaker says he's not happy with the progress of the bill, only that he can assure that the bill will be passed eventually.
So is the Speaker reiterating his point that there'll be no backing down? And how about the concerns, of course, the statement from the President that there's a substantial change to the bill that is being considered currently?
So it is the expression of the Speaker that the President's comments were out of place. He says, like you heard him say, he is in charge, and that if anything at all, he is the one supposed to make certain remarks. It is not up to the President to be speaking in such language, and for which reason he has been slamming the President. But ultimately, he says that Parliament will do as it pleases. Of course, we know that people have expressed concerns as to the constitutionality of the bill. The Speaker says they are guided by the Constitution. They are not going to act in any way that will infringe on the express provisions of the Constitution. And so people who are concerned about the constitutionality or otherwise will have to hold on for some time.
So, Kweku, how about the MPs also sponsoring this bill? Any comments from them yet? And what's been the reaction generally from Parliament?
Well, the Speaker said this with traditional leaders. There were not so many MPs around. But yesterday, we spoke with Honorable Sam George on Newsnight. He also has concerns about how the bill is progressing. And he also has concerns with some of the comments that the Vice President has made. But ultimately, he says he and his group, the persons who are sponsoring the bill, are not going to back down. They are not going to relent. And that ultimately, this bill will be passed.
And for the Speaker and the engagement with the MP sponsoring the bill, are they willing to engage probably with our foreign partners or perhaps the institutions that have been mounting pressure? Because we know that it's not just coming through from the US government. Are they willing to engage on this?
Well, Parliament has passed that stage. There was a stage where individuals, civil society organizations, body corporates could send memorandums on the bill and express their concerns. You recall last year there were public hearings by the committee where they heard from people. They have passed that stage. Indeed, they only met the Attorney General about 3 or 4 weeks ago, who expressed some concerns about the bill. And the Attorney General said they've reached some agreement in terms of tweaking a few places. So when it comes to engagement, Parliament feels like they've gone past that stage, and that if such bodies were interested, they could have made their progressions and the advancement to the committee would have been taken into consideration. If persons have already made it, the committee says they've taken that into advisement, and that will form part of the bill that will come back to the floor in terms of the changes. So in terms of consultation and taking in views from other parties, they've already done that according to Parliament.
And how about updates on the bill itself? Do we know the timelines? At the last check, of course, the chairperson of the Constitution, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, Nyemedo Entry, indicated to us that that bill is being considered. Processes will complete by the time the House is rising. Are we getting a fair timeline now of what's likely to happen?
So there are no timelines. There are no timelines as to when this bill is expected to come to the floor. Ordinarily, per the standard of this, such committees' work are not expected to stay in committee for more than 3 months. And if committees have challenges, they would have to report back to the House for some work to be done on that. So that is that. But as of now, the committee says it is taking its time. According to the chairman, who has made several representations in the media and elsewhere, they are not going to be stampeded to necessarily fast-track this bill, and that they are going to take their time, do some quality work on that. So Parliament is not working by any strict timelines now. But of course, we know that there are certain bills that have traveled through several parliaments. The way the process works, if at the end of the day, this bill is not passed within the life of this bill, in the next parliament, it will start the process again. And so there are those concerns that have been expressed. But as of now, there are no express timelines that Parliament is working with. It's okay. The committee has 2 months when it comes to the floor test. No, there are no such timelines that are being worked with as of now.
Kweku, how about, of course, Parliament's reaction to this entire visit itself by the US President? Are we getting anything more from the MPs?
Not at all. MPs have been a little bit tight-lipped about that. Normally, such state visits would have had Parliament in mind, where maybe the Vice President would have made some remarks in Parliament. But Parliament, as an institution, isn't part of this. It hasn't come up on the floor. We haven't spoken with MPs on the sidelines. And so the visit of the Vice President is such a big deal to the executive, but it does not appear that it's on the radar at all of Parliament.
And we understand that one MP has been lost. Of course, he died today. What more details are we gathering, and who is this MP?
So the Member of Parliament for Kumewu, Honorable Philip Basoah, has been confirmed to have passed on this dawn. The family haven't released much details, but the Speaker of Parliament explained that he was on the floor of Parliament on Thursday, as we've been made aware, when the debate on the ministerial nominees was happening. He was there until he left, and then the next morning he couldn't be here because of ill health, and eventually has now been pronounced dead. The Speaker has had some advice to MPs that they must take care of their health, because as soon as you die, there will be talks about replacing you. I've also been speaking with some MPs who have also been expressing shock about the death of Honorable Philip Basoah, the MP for Kumewu, who they say is a very forthright MP, very punctual. Even as a journalist, you realize that he's always in Parliament. He's not a very loud MP. He's not an MP who speaks a lot of time, but his presence in Parliament is almost always felt, because he's almost always around. And MPs have been expressing shock about his demise.
Let's listen to the Speaker.
The stress that we go through in trying to represent our people. I don't need to emphasize the need for us to do continuous medical check. And I don't need to remind us that the rule is that you should not sit at one place for more than 2 hours, myself inclusive. And so please, when I'm suspending the House, you should understand. The Speaker should not be on the chair continuously for more than 2 hours. It's unhealthy. He came to the House and he was strong. At least he was ready to come in to vote. And whilst we were haggling, he just collapsed. And here we are now. You know, immediately you are no more. The people start thinking about replacing you. I made it clear at Formina when we went for the funeral of one of our former colleagues. I met the constituents wearing the T-shirts of the aspirants, not of the late Member of Parliament. And I recall saying there that if ever happened to me, which will not happen, and you did that and came to my funeral, I will take you away. Don't worry, it won't happen, so I won't take any of you away. So please, let's take our health seriously.
Right then, Kweku Asante is our parliamentary correspondent. I want to bring in now Dr. Ishmael Hlonvo. Dr. Ishmael Hlonvo is an international relations expert. He's been watching, of course, a number of developments on the U.S. Vice President's state visit. But Doc, thank you so much for your time here on the polls. The statement from the Speaker of Parliament calling out the U.S. Vice President even before she wraps up her tour, is that diplomatic enough for you?
I think that, well, that may not be very diplomatic. The Speaker also reserved the right to express his view on what he thought is not in line with Ghanaian culture or Ghanaian interests. But I would have thought that given the position that he holds fire until perhaps she leaves. But then again, we cannot micromanage everybody to say diplomatic languages and prevent them from saying what they feel like saying. So yes, to an extent, I would have wished the speaker would not go all out the way he did. But then again, he has the right to express his own thoughts and views on any development that he thinks affect the interests of Ghana.
But then, what will be the import and the implications for looking at the statement that the speaker has made? Do you see this creating some warpath between the executive and the speaker, and by extension, Parliament?
No, I don't think so. Remember, in issues of foreign policy, it's always the president that comes, or the executive take the lead, and then the Parliament who have the powers of approval. Indeed, the whole business of legislation is more or less a situation where you counterbalance one of the institutions with the other. So whatever outcome comes of Parliament's own processes would then go to the presidency for approval. So as I said, I think that both of them will still work together. Of course, they have the right to have different views on the particular issue, but you must differentiate between Parliament as an institution from the Speaker. The Speaker, although heads that institution more or less, his views should not be taken to represent the collective view of Parliament. Parliament as an institution may come out with a different outcome pertaining a particular issue, regardless of the position of the speaker. If, for instance, the speaker thinks that a particular bill is not in the interest of Ghana, the majority of the members elected deem it necessary, fit that it is in the interest of Ghana, the speaker cannot alter the majority decision of all those that are there and they are voting. So yes, once that is done, he is obliged to forward it to the president for the president's consideration. So there is no bloodbath between Parliament and the executive. They will still continue to cooperate depending on the issues. So yes, we must separate the individual view of the speaker from the view that Parliament as a collective institution will take. Because when it comes to some of the issue, it will then boil down to the votes. And of course, if it's a simple majority decision, it will be taken by the majority. And of course, the speaker would then have to go with that decision. So it's not his view, I'm not sure, represents the collective view of Parliament. But of course, if his view align with the collective view, then of course, then we will see that, well, the president still has his powers to counterbalance Parliament in terms of legislation and other things. But as I said, the two of them will always work together. That's very important.
Do you subscribe to the comments, for instance, by some of the MPs sponsoring this bill, that the president did not stand up to the Ghanaian position, what they consider to be the Ghanaian position during that press conference?
In coming to what the Ghanaian position is, there are also constituents in Ghana that may ascribe to the other position. Of course, culturally, we may not like certain practices because of our particular position. But that in a diplomatic engagement, sometimes you don't need to put out a posture of saying that you are standing so tall for what you want. You may actually ignore, as it were, some of the comment that the other party is making, although you intend to maintain your own position. So maintaining a position does not necessarily mean that you should express a view upon it, contrary to what somebody is saying. I think that the president gave an answer that was quite diplomatic. It doesn't want to be seen as standing up to the US vice president. Of course, maybe because he recognized that in the current situation he's in, he has to play his cards very well and get whatever he wants to get out of this partner. So in that case, while you may not intend to even give consideration to certain things, you can just, as he did diplomatically, say, well, this issue is before the legislature has been considered, and as he has put it across. It may be just a nice way of getting the U.S. Vice President comfortable enough to continue with other engagement and getting what he thinks he needs at this material moment. So it is not a bad thing not to stand up to your position openly by talking. You can still stand up for your position by doing what you think is practical enough for you, without necessarily telling the person that I'm not going to do what you are saying. So we must also recognize that in playing the card, the president needs certain things from the U.S. Therefore, taking the posture of, we are against this in full and in full may not help him achieve it. So if that is the game he's playing, it is important that we understand that what he needs now, what does it need now? He needs the backing of the U.S. to get his IMF deal. He needs the backing of the U.S. to get deals to support coastal countries in the fight against terrorism. He needs, and of course, as for the issue of gay and other rights, those ones culturally, of course, we will say that Ghana as a cultural setting does not support this. But then again, do we necessarily need to communicate it to mean that we don't support it? The U.S. Vice President consider it as an issue of human rights. That is his perspective. We may also have our own position of human rights. In any case, it is not. There's no universal conception of the word human right. There are those of us who believe in the cultural relativism of human rights, or we say that a particular culture defines what a human right is, and there are those who believe that human right is across board. Therefore, we could, as it were, we could stand in the particular way that says that, well, now we are considering this legislation, we will respect the right of gays, but then at the same time, while we respect their rights, we will not encourage gayism in Ghana. Sometimes you can be ambivalent in diplomatic relations. So, for instance, we say that I respect their rights, but I don't encourage gay. You are being ambivalent, which is a position to take, and the other party cannot take certain handlines against you because of your position, because you are not so clear what exactly you meant when you said that you respect gay rights, but you will not encourage it. Right. So sometimes we are so.
Hello, Doc. It appears we've lost Dr. Ishmael Honorable there, but explaining the points there about the controversy surrounding the proposed legislation against homosexuality in the Parliament of Ghana. Speaker of Parliament there explaining his side of the story, and appears not to be happy with what it is that the U.S. Vice President has been talking about. But let's stay on the U.S. Vice President, because she's continuing her 3-day visit here to the country. Kamala Harris has been calling on world leaders to work together to make the world a safer place. She's also been touching on the future of Africa, which she says is the place that the Biden administration intends to invest in. Here's a wrap of events that unfolded at the Independence Arch today.
Intentional to make progress in 3 key areas: the empowerment of women, digital inclusion, and good governance and democracy, all of which are a focus of my visit to the continent and going forward, and all of which have the potential to create even more innovation. Innovation that will unlock new jobs, new industries, and exponential growth. So let us agree. Women around the world must be able to fully participate in economic, political, and social life. And they must be able to participate equally, including in leadership roles. It is a key to maximizing global growth and opportunity. However, we see gender disparities around the world, including in the United States. disparities we must all address. On the continent of Africa, we know women grow a majority of the food, yet they are less likely to own the land they farm. They represent a majority of frontline healthcare workers, but face disparities in health outcomes. Women are entrepreneurs, yet have limited access to capital and markets. They are peacemakers and bridge builders, yet continue to be underrepresented at the tables where decisions are being made. And there are many factors that impact a woman's ability to survive and thrive. One of those is economic empowerment. And when we lift up the economic status of a woman, let's be clear, we lift up the economic status of her children, her family, her community, the entire economy benefits. So know that the United States of America will work alongside our partners each and every day to close gender gaps here and around the world. And ultimately, our belief is that the empowerment of women is rooted in the concept of freedom, not just freedom from violence or want, but freedom to create one's own future. A freedom we desire for all people.
Well, I want to bring in now Sandra Boachi, who's a women rights advocate. We also have Jonathan Kuyama, who's a Ghanaian in the diaspora. Thank you, gentlemen and lady, for joining us. Sandra and Jonathan were all at the event earlier today, and that's why I want to bring you in, Sandra. The fact that women empowerment is featuring as a key priority for the U.S. Vice President. How do you feel when all of these statements were being made by the U.S. Vice President at the Independence Arch?
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I must say that, hearing those words from the U.S. Vice President actually made me feel so elated, and it really made me feel empowered as a woman. And I know that we are going far as women with regards to addressing gender gaps and inequalities affecting women. The Vice President talked about digital inclusion, and that is really key in this day and age. And I feel as a country, Ghana, we need to begin to think about how we are including women in our digital innovations. That really stood out for me. Another thing that stood out for me was her hitting on entrepreneurship. We can all be in offices doing the white collar jobs. It is time for women to go out there and solve issues. As an entrepreneur, the only way you make an impact is when you address a problem. So women like myself are encouraged to identify the challenges around us, the challenges that affect us, and bring out solutions to be able to address these issues that will eventually contribute to community and societal development. So if you ask me, that is my impression about the speech I heard today.
Jonathan, for you, you were, of course, elated when the Vice President of the United States spoke about the African diaspora and the need to harness that effort in rebuilding emerging countries such as Ghana. You're a Ghanaian. You, of course, live in the United States of America. But how is all of this playing out for you personally?
Well, I think her visit is very, very important to all Ghanaians. For me, I left Ghana when I was 5 years old, lived in the U.S. for over 45 years, and made a conscious decision to come back to Ghana. And I'll have to be honest, the reason I made that decision was because of all of the people that were coming to Ghana, all the noise around Ghana, all the development and everything that was going on in Ghana at the time, which was 10 years ago. And now it's currently even more profound. You have stars and movie stars and athletes and all type of people coming to Ghana. The government has started the Year of Return, and now moving further to the Beyond the Year of Return. I am part of an organization called Omega Psi Phi Fraternity. It's an organization of fraternities and sororities of African American men all throughout the U.S. and all over the world. You know, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah is a member of fraternity. He pledged when he was at Lincoln University when he was in the U.S. And so they're 100-year-old fraternities and sororities, and every one of them has a chapter here in Ghana. And so it's just so much going on in Ghana. There's so much opportunity. People are coming back, and we want them to be able to come back. We want them to have an environment that's going to be conducive for them to be able to do business, to be able to raise their family, so forth and so on. So I think that Kamala coming here is, you know, it's a big deal. It's an opportunity for the diaspora to see that, you know, Ghana is growing and that the U.S. is committed into making sure that people have an opportunity to do business here. And so, you know, it's just a really, really great opportunity. As I said, you know, the Beyond the Year of Return is bringing more people. Every time you turn around, you see different stars coming to Ghana, different actors, different players coming to Ghana, and it's just encouraging all the diaspora to come to Ghana and work and to live and to, you know, do business. One of the things that I say, you know, that it's not only up to the U.S. You know, we look so much and we depend so much on U.S. giving and U.S. power, but in order for those two dynamics to really work, the government of Ghana and Ghana has to also play a key role in that. You know, for example, I'm a nonprofit or NGO here in Ghana. We build schools, we build clinics, we do so many things all over Ghana. And we encourage diasporans when they come to Ghana to not only invest in the tourism and the business, but also to give back to help in the infrastructure of the country. And so in the US, for example, if you give or donate to an NGO, there's a tax write-off. There's an opportunity to be able to get a tax credit for that. You know, these are some of the incentives that Ghana has to be able to provide. The Ghana government has to be able to provide to incentivize diasporans to come back, give back in the infrastructure and also in businesses throughout Ghana.
Okay. Jonathan, just hold on for us. Sandra, you were talking about the fact that women empowerment is dear to you. Giving this visit, what would you want to see authorities here in Ghana do to open up the space much more for women?
I think the first and foremost thing I would love to see authorities in Ghana do is to take actions by ourselves. You know, a lot of the times we gather momentum, we have these speeches and all of that, and it ends there. It is time that we ourselves gather what we want to do, have a plan, and implement the plan, and also invest in the plan that we intend to do. What do I mean by that? Women empowerment basically starts with girl-child education. And for a woman to be empowered, she has to be educated first. She has to understand, she has to read and write. So not until we address challenges with girl-child education, trust me, we are not going anywhere as a country. So we as Ghanaians need to have a plan, a roadmap to ensure that every girl everywhere receives the basic minimum education that is required. And I must commend this government for the free basic education policy being implemented currently. However, for the girl child, not until you address issues around the agenda, I'm talking specifically about menstrual health and hygiene, not until you're providing sanitary pads and menstrual products, they are still missing school. We have been on the field several times and we've seen girls missing school during their period. And so government needs to put that as a priority, invest in menstrual equity so that the girls can stay in school and be able to grow and become whatever they want to be. Another area I would want government to look at is to have favorable policies for women and girls. In the past, we know about the affirmative action bill, and until recently, we don't know what is going on with the bill. We want government to commit to the bill and make sure that it's into full action, and then systematically integrate it into the system where we'll have quotas and portion reserved for women, not only in parliament, but in the ministries, in civil societies, in I mean, throughout the hierarchy of decision making, those are the few things I think government should do to ensure that women are fully empowered. And another thing I want to say is to finance women entrepreneurs. I think Kamala mentioned that as well. Women are full of ideas. We can multitask. We can do so many things. But because of societal norms and the patriarchal nature of our society, a lot of the times women lack access to the financial resources to do what they want to do. So if government can prioritize such investments and ensure that women everywhere in Ghana, I mean, let's look at Ghana beyond Accra. Let's go into the rural areas. Let's look at where the need really is and ensure that all our programming and all our interventions are inclusive. And talking of inclusivity, I want to mention about persons with disability. We have women who are not just women, they have disability. And in assessing health and education, they have several challenges. It is high time government looks at how we mainstream our services and products to ensure that the needs of persons with disability are integrated and investments made into it. I think what I want to hone on is government investment.
Right.
We have beautiful policies sitting in books and not much is done. So yeah, that's what I would recommend or advise the government of Ghana.
Right. Let's wrap this up, and I'll give you the final thoughts, Jonathan, because you were also part of that gathering today. Where did you spot the opportunity for the African diaspora?
Well, I found that, first of all, a lot of people attended, which I think was very good. People were engaged and listening to what Madam Kamala had to say. And I think that was, very good and very impressive. Ghanaians are open to partner with the U.S. And I think, just as Ms. Boachi said, we need to look inside ourselves and see what can we do as far as policy making, as far as making sure that the disabled and the women are included in a lot of our decision making. There's just so much opportunity. And I think this is just the first step. This was a great opportunity for Ghana to hear from a U.S. head. And so I think that there's an opportunity for us to keep that ball rolling, not to stop there, just as Ms. Boachi said. We shouldn't stop at just these great speeches and these great meetings and these great tours. We need to move forward, and make sure that we keep the momentum going.
All right, then. We'll leave it here for now. Jonathan and Sandra, we'll see you again. They were part of close to 10,000 people who gathered at the Independence Arch earlier today. Let's take you to the Central region because we're expecting the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris to visit the Cape Coast Castle to speak about the brutality of slavery. She's up to a number of activities there. Richard Kejetia is our man on the grounds for us. Richard, bring us up to speed with what's happening.
So blessed, the U.S. Vice President arrived in Cape Coast a couple of minutes ago, and two ceremonies are going to take place here. One is currently underway at the Mintimaze Palace, where there is a deba that is being held. When you go to someone's house, you need to go and then say, I have arrived. And so that is what is currently happening. From there, they will come to the Cape Coast Castle, where the Vice President will go to the castle. That is where a lot of, or millions of people were tortured during the slave time. And so a lot of them also caught their last glimpse of Africa before they began their journey of enslavement. And so that is what she will be doing. Currently, we are at the precinct of this castle, and many are waiting. They are hoisting their American flags and Ghanaian flags. And so we are waiting patiently for her to arrive here so that she will go through this solemn ceremony. It is interesting to know that it is not only her that in recent time that has come to the Cape Coast Castle. We also know of the U.S. congressional leaders who also were led by Nancy Pelosi. They came here. Wife of Donald Trump also was here. And about a decade ago, Barack Obama also visited this place. So this visit bodes a lot of significant for the people here. The fact that the people are saying that Cape Coast is chosen among the lots of cities in Ghana where when leaders of such caliber arrive in Ghana, apart from Accra, they come here. And so it really boosts the tourism potential of this place. And so that is what people have been saying. Throughout the day, many have been waiting with bated breath to see the arrival of the Vice President of the United States of America. And so, Blessed, that is what we are currently waiting for.
How about the debate that's currently underway? Do we know the details of this function and whether or not special honors will be conferred on Kamala Harris?
Exactly. So for we, the journalists here, we've been divided into two. Whilst we are stationed here, others are also stationed at the Durban grounds. And it is the Durban, the U.S. Vice President is going to deliver a speech. The Omahin of the Ogwa traditional area is also going to speak. And it's not going to be more than 30 minutes. And then she will come here to begin the second ceremony of the day.
I'm sure that you've been interacting with a number of people I see right behind you. What sense do you get from them as to what the significance of this exercise will mean, not just to Ghanaians, but the African diaspora?
Blessed, I can tell you that they are excited. The fact that they saw two planes fly over their heads, and for the fact that they have been waiting the entire day, and the entire city has been painted with the colors of Ghana and that of the United States of America. And if you speak with people, they say that this is really historic, this is significant, and they would want to see more of this. You know, in 2019 there was this declaration of the year of return, and that saw a lot of people of black descent coming to Ghana. And most importantly, when they come to Ghana, they come to Cape Coast, they come to the Elimina Castle, they visit the places where, I mean, some of their ancestors were taken through some torturous journey before they began their journey of enslavement. And so they are really, really happy, and they believe that something in terms of development should come their way after this visit.
All right, I'm grateful for your time. That's Richard Kejetia joining us from the Central Regional Capital, Cape Coast, where the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris will be visiting. That very monument you see there signifies a lot to the African diaspora. We'll get into the details of all of that when she arrives. You're watching The Pulse. We'll be back shortly. And the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources says it is in talks with the Finance Ministry to clear some 28 million cedis, which it owes seedling providers. As part of the Green Ghana agenda, government is on a target to plant over 20 million trees across the country. However, it's beginning to bite hard as there are some debts that would have to be cleared. Benito Usubio has been addressing journalists on this.
We have received the report. And as such, we cannot just say that because we've received the report, we are just informing you and then giving you the report for you to use as a basis. But then we have to pick some selected sites across the nation to visit ourselves with you for us to see whether what is in the report is true. What I will say is that I'll just read the conclusion so that at least all of you can have it. In conclusion, it says the survival survey revealed that the seedlings distributed under the 2021 and 2022 editions of the Green Ghana Day were duly planted on both forest reserve and off-reserve sites across the country. However, not all the planted seedlings survived. The findings show that for 2021, as at now, we have 65% and 67% of the planted seedlings surviving in on-reserve and off-reserve sites respectively. So for 2021, what it means is that in the forest reserves, we have 65% for 2021, and then for 2022, we have 67% for 2022. Yes. In respect of 2022, both on-reserve and off-reserve sites recorded a survival rate of 72%. Yes. But you see, it's always very important that this thing is done for about 3 years. You see, the rate of survival is a bit low until they go beyond the third year cycle, by which time their roots would be very matured enough and they can withstand the vagaries of the weather. Yes. It is recommended that the Forestry Commission be provided with funds and logistics, such as vehicles. As for that, is the usual call. Yes, for them to carry on to ensure maintenance of the planted sites. Yes, and ensure that we would try very much as possible to protect every seedling that is planted. But I read the article to myself. It's unfortunate. He didn't give any location. He just said some seedlings have been chewed by goats. And I'm like, where is that? So that we can hold the particular district forestry officers and personnel there responsible for them to ensure that it doesn't happen again. Yes, and so we'll take it on board.
Well, the Deputy Minister has also been touching on the success rate of the Green Ghana agenda.
I'm very, very much impressed with what I've seen, and also the way the seedlings are doing. You can tell they've struggled, but they have survived. Some of them are, in fact, flourishing. When I say flourishing, I mean they are growing even more than expected. But others too, I would say, are struggling a bit. But the good thing is that with what we've seen so far, I think we can all attest to the fact that the ones that have withered are just very few. In fact, in Achimota Forest itself, we didn't see any seedling that had died. Yes, all of them, we didn't see any casualty. All of them have survived. And likewise, in the school woodlot here too. But over here, they are struggling. But with the rains coming in, we know they will all survive and do well. This is to inform Ghanaians that, first of all, the little money we used in making sure we procure seedlings and then also helping to plant all what we spent have been spent in the right course and also has been spent judiciously. Today, we don't see the direct benefit of it, but in future, we will all see how beneficial these trees will be to us in terms of helping to reduce the rate of climate change and also helping to sequester carbon from the environment. Yes. This year, very soon, in early May, by all means, we'll be launching the Green Ghana Day event for 2023. But then the actual planting, the day itself, will be on 9th June 2023. All this is part of the build-up towards that day. We need to see what and how they are doing, and then we use that to mobilize the entire nation so that we will all rise up on that day to still carry on with the planting. Please, I'm surprised that one of our own media houses could report 2.5 billion. I'm surprised. A figure that they never even interrogated. When somebody just mentions to you that you owe me 2.5 billion, do you understand the magnitude of it? Please, we don't owe anyone 2.5 billion. Yes, government owes for 2021 and 2022. In all, it's 28 million Ghana cedis. So where from that 2.5 billion? Let's report the facts as it is. Yes, we are in discussion with the Ministry of Finance, and hopefully we know they will release funding for us to be able to settle that debt. Yes, thank you. But this is all to assure those people, the seedling providers, that yes, we are working and to ensure that they are paid.
Well, let's focus on politics now, because with barely 24 hours to the end of the vetting exercise for presidential aspirants within the National Democratic Congress, individuals jostling for the position are hopeful they'll make it through to the top spot. 4 persons for now slugging it out for the flag bearership slot of the opposition National Democratic Congress. After John Dramani Mahama, we know that Dr. Dufour has been vetted together with some other individuals. Let's start off by hearing from Fritz Bafo, who speaks for the Dufour campaign.
We have a very good candidate in Dr. Dufour. He is eloquent, he knows what he's about. And so naturally the committee was very interested in hearing his opinions on various things concerning the Republic of Ghana and the people of Ghana.
Okay, yesterday we were here, we saw a number of members of Parliament.
Yes.
Going into support of
Right.
Today, apart from Milo and Tebanda, who's also on the elections committee, not any member of Parliament. Are we supposed to be worried?
No, ours was a low-key appearance. All right, this was supposed to be devoid of a crowd. When we came to file our nomination, we were followed by the grassroots, and Dr. Dufour is a man of the grassroots. The members of Parliament, whom I respect and used to be my colleagues, have their opinions, but I think that we didn't orchestrate anything. We came here low-key because this was a vetting. It was a very, very serious approach. The filing of the nomination was a bit of a fanfare, so we came with a lot of people and we had fun. About his intentions and what the plans he had for the country and the party. They also interrogated his CV, and he was up to scratch with it. Oh, about 1.5 hours. You've got very, very, very intelligent people on the committee, very forceful people on the committee, and they want clarity. And that clarity was given to Dr. Dufour this morning, or right up to this afternoon.
So you are sure that your candidate will be cleared by the committee?
Pardon?
Are you sure he will be cleared by the committee?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I don't think I'm at liberty to do that, because that is why it was held in camera. I think that as we go along, some of those things will be revealed.
Were issues of his capability of managing
A man, yeah.
the party thinks of getting someone. Earlier, you made a comment that the party needed someone with an economics or finance background.
Yes. Of course, naturally. I said they interrogated and asked questions about his intentions and his plans for the country. All right. And I can actually reveal that they asked him whether he believed in the long term and medium, and he answered in the positive.
And what is the official position of your camp?
Yes. We don't have an official position. I'm a former member of Parliament. I know that some conventions exist, but I am very upset at the fact that MPs are being vilified without people interrogating as to what happened and what really happened. You understand? There are many issues to be discussed and many issues to be asked. So it would be premature for me to make any statement on that and to say that we have an official position. We don't have an official position.
Is there a worry that just a day or so after the incident in Parliament,
Yeah.
We are seeing names of MPs who reportedly did not.
Well, it's perception. I don't think there's any proof, and I don't think I'll lend myself to that kind of comment.
What are you expecting the party to do now?
I don't think that I'm the right person to ask those kind of questions. Of course they are concerned. They are concerned, but the thing is that we have to sit down and discuss. We believe very much in consensus, and we believe very much in promoting the unity of the party as a strong, united organization.
Well, the next to be voted was Ernest Kobia, who's also in the race for the presidential slot of the NDC.
I want to give the future for Ghanaians and also to let all the NDC people know that we have the men to do the job. To build a new Ghana and to give financial freedom to the nation.
Tell us, what were your expectations? Were they met during the vetting?
Very nice. You know our people, they are very good and they welcome me, talk to me, a father and son, and much appreciate to our leaders.
So what were some of the issues that came up?
There is no issue. Just I need to come back tomorrow. Everything is fine and successful.
So tell us, Kobia, it's like you are not well known in the party. That's the perception of others though. What is your response to that?
I'm well known on NDC party. When I went down there, all my fathers and everyone, they know me and they congratulate me for the hard work I did for the party.
And the people of the Kwandai district are making an appeal for government to extend some school infrastructure to their community. We've been finding out more in this report.
Once upon a time, a community called Japido in the Kwandai district of the northern region welcomed a group of people who later formed another community called Tadando. The two communities lived side by side, traded, intermarried, and related so well together. There was no school in the two communities, so they decided to establish an informal school. They hired the services of a teacher to educate their children. As the number of children grew in both communities, the government decided to establish the school for the two communities. This was some good news. But it was at this point that the communities disagreed. They all wanted the school built on their land.
When the school was about being established here, Japido wanted the school to be in their land because they claimed they were here before Tadando settlers came. And when that wasn't done, they refused to bring their children to the school. I think if we meet the community elders, we may get the reasons from the horse's own mouth.
So I went to Tadando to hear their side of the story. Kajo Samuel is a community leader at Tadando.
No, say school I ever be Tadando no. Nti mo na ye mpanyifo, mo na di kan betena aha nti mo makwan say obaje mo kura de den ade aba etan na ha. Nti ti sade mo ye den mo mba. Nti nti na mo mba.
The people of Tadando softened their stance and said they wanted a school built in Japido, but based on the large number of children in Tadando, officials of the Ministry of Education decided to set up the school just at the boundary between the two communities.
The director of Kwandai no aba aba fra mo say ti sade. Nkan first school say Japido ni Tadando primary school. Na first school dey nsi fimfim. Nti wo say Japido ko person fra school say Japido primary school. Anya din nti me say ade. Nti mo first school no Japido Tadando ndi hen school asa na yere na hia e. School no wa Japido a yetar no for ebeko.
The people of Japido wanted a school built on their land because they were the first settlers, so they decided to boycott the nearby school and rather enrolled their children over 5 kilometers away. Their children walk over 10 kilometers daily to access school. The children are not happy with this situation, but they have no choice.
My parents told me I'm not going to Tarano, I'm going to Balai, but the time in school here, in school Tarano, they fight She told me to go to Balai.
You want to go to Tadando?
No.
Why?
Because of fight. The 5 o'clock you wake up and go to Balai. It's too far.
What time do you leave the house?
5 o'clock.
What time did you get to school?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock?
Yes.
So you are tired?
Yes.
When they born me, my parents said that we should not go there to school. That's why we are not going there.
So why are you not going to the next school?
My father told me that they were fighting, that I couldn't go to dance school.
So I asked the fathers in Japido why they would punish their children by making them walk long distances when they can simply send them to Tadando. What is just 5 minutes walk?
Yam pesa yang kwaskunu dakru. Ewo nyumbo eni balai. Balai eho wawo. Ewa nti mbiso ekwa nai. Nse ahawa omunante ko. Muko onyumbo. Eni balai. Eni balai. Eni pandai. Nse omubre omubebre. Be omubre ya anyefi. Omubebre nti omubre no obi ekira wo se nane abuya wonso ojimino fa ojimino.
Very young children therefore do not attend school because of the long distance. The children stay at home until they are old enough to walk over 10 kilometers to enjoy the right to education.
No, say Tadando Japido amobeko. Say baby amusi school no. Yam pesa school no ngina ho. Aha na ya register sa school. One, no musi omo eye nimpa don chen. Say eso. Na abenso ejetum say nko mo be ye bibia omo fe population. So omo say omo chere sa say population omo de yadi. Say omo don se chair. Te na ampa so omo dos kache senior.
One very interesting thing is that when a Japido man meets a Tadando woman and they fall in love and they eventually marry, the end product, the children, if they end up living here in Japido, all the children would have to go to Balai, that is several kilometers away, instead of just a 5 minutes walk to Tadando Primary School. It's very interesting. But after engaging them, the people are saying that they will only go to Tadando on one condition.
Ne aban edibe pataye na yenso ya ne agino nka odi JSS ba ha na omu be siawe na omu asesi na ya ne ahu say JSS ebe si Japido a ye be ko.
So as it stands now, if the government delays building a school at Japido, the children would have to walk over 10 kilometers to access education. Jojo Kobna, JoyNews.
And the activities of illegal mining continue to wreak havoc on our water bodies. The Ghana Water Company is beginning to get alarmed about the situation. There's more in this report.
As part of the celebration of World Water Day, selected students drawn from 4 second cycle institutions, namely St. Francis Xavier Minor Seminary, Wa Senior High, Wa Senior High Technical, and Wa Islamic Girls Senior High Schools, had a tour of the Jambuso water production plant in the Wawas district of the Upper West region. The aim of the tour is for the selected students to learn and acquaint themselves with the various production stages of the water from the Black Water to Wa and its surrounding communities. The 3.3 million gallons water project was commissioned in 2017 at a cost of $55 million United States dollars. The students were accompanied on the tour by officials from the Water Resources Commission, Ghana Water Company Limited, and the Community Water and Sanitation Agency. Production and Water Quality Manager of the Ghana Water Company Limited, Cletus Yenku, expressed worry over the increasing level of pollution on the Black Volta.
2017 up to now, we did analysis. We have realized that the pollution level keep increasing. And that means that it's we, the people of Wa, and those along the river, our activities that is polluting the river. And we have realized that the activities that are most affecting the quality of the water in the river is the illegal mining activities, farming activities, fishing, and other activities that we may not be able to see. Logging is one. Once you clear the environment, now the land cover is removed. So when it rains, the water will run at a speed and therefore wash off the surface water, soil into the water, then increasing the turbidity of the water and also silting the river.
Just some few meters away, our camera captured these suspected illegal miners close to the Black Volta doing their act. Cletus Yenku noted that once the level of pollution of the water increases, chemicals used in treating the water are also increased, resulting in the high cost of production of water from the plant.
Now they say Ghana Water Company produce clean water, distribute it. That's our mandate. We produce, transmit water to the community at an affordable price. Now if we are polluting the water bodies, our cost of production is increasing. How are we going to make it affordable for the people? That means that the cost of production will be transferred into the community. A time will come, if we don't change our attitude, if we don't accelerate the change that we all want to see, the clean water we all want to have, if we don't institute something, change our behavior, our attitude towards the environment, towards the water bodies, a time will come that the water will not be affordable for all of us as we want it to be.
Basin head at the Black Volta Basin, Joachim Abongba noted that as part of effort to the attainment of SDG 6, which targets water for all by 2030, implore all to advocate, among other things, protection and restoration of ecosystems, since it is the surest ways of safeguarding the existence of water for use today and for prosperity.
With regards to groundwater resources, the major challenge faced is the uncontrolled drilling of boreholes and the use of unlicensed drilling companies in drilling and construction of boreholes, and hence result in a situation where we have some boreholes not having or producing water for people. There is also unwillingness on the part of water users in the basin to register their operations with the Water Resources Commission, which is mandated by law to regulate and manage the country's water resources. Without a proper register for water users in the basin, it will be difficult, if not impossible, to regulate their activities to the effect that it leads to an unsustainable utilization of basin water resources.
APA was Regional Director of the Community Water and Sanitation Agency, Atukwansa, on his part, expressed concern about burden of loved ones at homes without any proper rising embankment on them.
Most importantly, if you take in our homes, a lot of people bury our loved ones indiscriminately, and we end up not putting any rising embankments on them. Years later, we misplaced the point and we draw boreholes there, and it is one of the major sources of contamination when it comes to the rural areas.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam, Jamboso.
And over 800 shop owners at the Kejetia market continue to protest against the decision to keep their shops locked. The area was razed down by fire, and after that incident, authorities say they're carrying out investigations, and hence the traders there would have to stay out of their shops. Nana Yaobachi of Love FM found out that the traders are not entirely happy about the decision.
Recent fire at the Kejetia market destroyed 33 shops
city authorities, after several meetings, placed a ban on business activities at the affected area. 807 shops were cordoned off, but traders who were not directly affected disagree. Amidst noise making and clad in red, they engaged in protests, registering their displeasure against the management of the facility. The traders broke into the market, expressing their dissatisfaction. They say they were not directly affected by the fire and have paid for the shops.
Kayan yes, no, my son, come maybe a pine or my sister, no, my uncle, me and Tomadia. They are 10 feet or 2 weeks. Ye are about for your shame out of school. Yet, yet, if you come back, pan and find some of Flano, and I come back, pan and funny dear. Yet, 10 feet or 2 weeks. 8 years, slow, me, yes, slap by and say, yes, Sranapa, 1 in Penifon and Casa, number be a Jana Ashiano. Yes, slow, pa, no, maybe my shots now, Madame Maya, and Yavanta, Yedi, Yesika, Sika Modro, Entino. Imagine so imagine sika any class on be say so as store so asay a o me ne ye so imagine ne say ye say o manu enti ye rough on be kan ne a ye mo mate asay say ye nsa en say o manu bie ye nsa en say o manu enti no o mo me bie so ma ye nya ye adwuma anye sa say de kan for na kan de ebesi.
Leader of the affected traders Andrew Kofi claimed management have failed to provide alternatives for businesses affected by their decision.
No real work have gone on at the first and second floor, and by extension, the entire market. This is one. As we speak, 807 shops have been affected by the forced closure of unconcerned and unperturbed authorities who took no action to curtail fire from causing the kind of disruption that the fire has caused. Has anybody, ladies and gentlemen, that is the board of directors of Kumasi City Market Limited or the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly, ever thought of how these 807 shops owners have been surviving and will survive aftermath of the market? Not even cleaning of the debris at the epicenter of the fire has been done. What have authorities been doing over the past 11 days? Now that the incident occurred, since the past 7 days that the incident occurred, what has authority been doing? If we say authorities, we are referring to the Kumasi mayor and by extension the board. When he was notified about the debris, he told us that is not his responsibility. Whose responsibility it is to clear the debris, to allow peaceful market women to engage in their trading activities? This is the core matter. Nobody should just twist anything to favor him. We are demanding immediate reopening of 807 shops, barricades, and if this is not done, we have only 1 hour to do it ourselves. We are not saying where the fire occurred, they should open it for trading activities. Our demand is simple. That is what I have told you. We dare authorities to show us an iota of roadmap they have drawn to guide us all to getting the affected areas back to track or back to normalcy. We dare them to do that.
For JoyNews, Nana Bachi reporting.
And the Economic and Trade Mission of the Israeli government here in Ghana is collaborating with NATMO for disaster preparedness. Just a couple of days ago, some residents of Accra experienced some wave shocks believed to be an earth tremor. Such activities will be dealt with if this partnership is increased. Yanif Tessel is the head of the Economic and Trade Mission here in Ghana. Thank you for your time here on the Pulse. So why now, and what will this program entail? Yanif, we're having a difficulty hearing you. If you could just unmute for us. I'm asking why now, and what will this emergency preparedness meeting entail? It appears we're having some difficulties. Here's a report for you.
both natural and man-made, are common all over the world, often necessitating emergency responses. The May 9 disaster, June 3rd disaster, Kejetia tidal waves disaster, and a Piatti disaster are few instances which put to test Ghana's responses to emergency and crisis management in the recent past.
Is where the water used to settle. Now you have people building in this whole area, raising the level of the land, making it impossible for the water to settle in this area.
The collaboration between the two countries is to help Ghana to check some of the circumstances which predisposes it to such disasters and mitigates their associated risks as much as possible. Head of Israeli Economic and Trade Mission to Ghana, Yaniv Tessil, said his unit will be engaging some private disaster management-based companies in Israel for the implementation of the initiative in Ghana.
And we're going to present some of the solutions that help governments and relevant agencies to better prepare themselves and better cope with disasters. Solutions from mapping through satellites, seismic technologies for better predicting the earthquake, communication solutions, and more. I believe that the Israeli companies can leave a positive impression. They can set some kind of foundation for future discussion, and these discussions could be done directly. And it's the same way these agencies are selling to, these companies, some of them are also work with the Israeli government, but not necessarily, and they work with governments around the world. So the Israeli government, and especially us, the Economic and Trade Mission, our role is to set platform for such collaborations.
Israeli ambassador to Ghana, Shlomet Sofa, is optimistic Ghana will be able to adopt same measures applied by Israel to enhance its emergency preparedness and crisis management.
Although every nation is unique, many of the lessons that Israel has learned may be broadly applicable to preparation of mass casualty incidents in countries such as Ghana. I'm therefore happy that our Economic and Trade Mission has taken this initiative with NADMO to bring all of us together to have this important conversation.
Deputy Director General in charge of technical and reforms at the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, Saji Amadonu, revealed that though President Akufo-Addo's plan for responding to earthquake disasters is ready for launch, NADMO needs some technical assistance for its effective implementation.
But it's just that quite recently there have been a lot of earth tremors, which the experts say can be a sign that we might have a major earthquake event. So the country needs to stand ready. And we all know about 2 years back, the president actually directed and had a committee in place to design a framework for earthquake response in Ghana. And that has been done. We are in the process of implementing that. And some of the recommendations in that is to have an earthquake response plan. And in having an earthquake response plan, you must know the latest technologies and the information that will be used in responding to an earthquake event.
The forum, among others, is expected to give first responders an opportunity to appreciate innovative technologies from Israel. Jacqueline Ansuma Yeboah's report for Joy News.
And Yaniv Tessil is the head of the Economic and Trade Mission of the Israeli government here in Ghana. Thank you for your time. Why now, and how do you intend to roll out that exercise, sir? Kindly unmute so we are able to hear you.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Okay, hi. Thank you for having me. Yeah, we were very excited to have this event today for the first time, introducing Israeli technological capabilities, sharing it with our partners and the agencies in Ghana. I think it's never a fun topic to speak about disasters. but you ask me why now. So I think we've all been experiencing, and a natural disaster has taken their toll in many countries. Most recently, the earthquake that struck our region, where I come from, the Middle East, especially Turkey and Syria. So I think we all realize the importance of being prepared, ready, with the ability to predict, to handle, and to recover after disaster. And it's not only natural disaster, we're also addressing man-made disasters. Why Ghana? I think Israeli companies are excited to work in Ghana. I think there's a lot of untapped potential that we've started to discover today in this event we held with the great collaboration we had with NADMO. And Israeli companies are happy to share and to collaborate and share know-how and experience.
What will be the next phase of the exercise? Do we know what that would entail, and whether or not you're getting enough cooperation from the Ghanaian side?
Well, today it's maybe early to say, but I can tell you what do we expect. So I hope that different agencies will work separately with the Israeli technology providers. We, as the Embassy of Israel, we hope to initiate government-to-government discussion. Like NADMO in Ghana, Israel has its own agency under the Ministry of Defense to handle and manage crisis and disasters. And we hope that we can lead a joint discussion between these two agencies, and we, the Economic and Trade Mission, will be happy to support such a discussion. We had a presentation today from the Israeli Disaster Management Agency, and I think having the same challenges, facing the same challenges, the two agencies has a lot to talk about and to discuss. We're always happy to have delegations from. Sorry, I would just say that we're always happy to host delegations in Israel and to this end.
And is it just about technology transfer, or are you equally willing to build the capacity of the Ghanaian staff who would be using this technology if indeed it is rolled
out? We're looking at both. I think Israel is known for its technology, so we're always happy to present and to share what we have to offer. We like to offer innovative things, but collaboration and sharing know-how, as I said, in the governmental framework is something that we encourage as well. Thanks. We would be very happy to further engage with NADMO or with the different agencies and to explore what other things could be done with Israel. The embassy offer training for Ghanaians that are willing to do so, both from the public and the private sector. The training could take place in Israel or here by experts from Israel that are coming to Ghana. And we would like to also start and include disaster management, and especially floods and earthquake that Ghana is known as prone to, surprisingly or not surprisingly, to include these topical under our thematical areas that we cover in our collaborations channel with Ghana.
And if would have to leave it here, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Grateful. And now, Nana Ofori-Attah is one of Ghana's celebrated art historian. She's set to feature a new series which talks about the future of Black art and history. She's joining us via Zoom now. Thank you for your time. Help us to understand your journey, because you featured in Venice and all of the world events that we can talk about when we refer to art, and we must congratulate you for that. But just help us understand and to know how you got there. What's been your story?
So, hi, good afternoon or good evening. I first started 20 years ago, last year. I started off in politics. I worked with the United Nations, having studied politics and Russian. And then I realized while being in United Nations that there's only so much that you can change on the political level to make like real transformation, real change. You have to really go into people's hearts, into people's souls. And so I went back to university. I did a master's in African art history, and that was the beginning of my journey.
Amazing. But how about this new project that you're embarking on? How is that likely to impact the community, the society where you come from? And what are you seeking to influence with this new project?
You're talking about the Venice Biennale?
I'm talking about the future, the new project that you're running.
Sorry, we're talking specifically about the Venice Biennale,
precisely,
right?
Yes, precisely.
Okay. So, well, yeah, just to tell you a little bit about the first Venice Biennale. The Venice Biennale is like the Olympics of the art world. It's where every country is represented. And yeah, it's like the Olympics. So each country is there. And when I first started my career, I went to the Venice Biennale, and every single African country in the diaspora was all in one pavilion. It was all under a pavilion of Africa, even though all the so-called important countries had their own pavilion. And it was also half an hour away from the center, and it seemed to represent geopolitically how our entire continent was seen, that we were on the margins, that, you know, we are this monolithic, undifferentiated whole. And so, you know, and since then I've been working really to uplift the arts, both in Ghana and internationally. I have this nonprofit, which is 20 years old now, but there's only so much impact that you can have as an independent space. To have real wide-reaching resonance, there needs to be some kind of legitimation or support from the collective authority, i.e. the state. And so I'd been lobbying different governments since I'd first started. And in 2019, I finally had the access to be able to bring Ghana to the center through this very successful national pavilion that we had at the Venice Biennale. It was our first entry, and we were in the top 3 in every single publication, whether it's Al Jazeera, The Guardian, New York Times, etc.
Seeking to change the colonial idea of how we see the museum. How are you changing that narrative?
So, yeah, we did the Venice Biennale. I'll just briefly wrap up the Venice Biennale and then move on to that. So for the first pavilion with Ghana Freedom, my vision was to work with artists who were like truly masters of their craft, and then to also interrogate this idea of, you know, we all know Nkrumah's words of Ghana, our beloved country, is free forever. But I think that to me and to many others, we're still not really free. And I feel like with these artists in particular, we wanted to interrogate where we were, how we'd gotten there, and then how we might move forward. And it was a huge success, but lots of challenges along the way. You were asking about the idea of the museum and decolonizing the museum. I think that sometimes art and culture can perpetuate the very systems of oppression that, you know, that we're trying to dismantle through art. Sometimes even I wonder with trying to bring art to things like the Venice Biennale, you know, whether in some way I'm contributing to that. And even though we're rising stars in the art world now, in the art market, through the work that we've all been doing, you know, my underlying question is, are we really being true to ourselves? Are we doing so with integrity? You know, we all know that so many of our structures, such as museums, are things that we inherited from colonialism. And these were built to carry forth inequality. You know, when you go to museums in the West, they still see us or show us as other. We're still places and people to be studied and observed. And to a certain extent, we've internalized that, you know, but yet you have our historical knowledge systems, our traditional knowledge systems, and you have art and culture standing like alongside science and technology, knowledge of nature, knowledge of the mind, knowledge of the soul. So how do we connect to these indigenous knowledge systems and then show them through structures that we build and then invite communities into them?
Right. It's a really amazing story. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, and we'll do this again. Thank you for joining us here on The Pulse. And that's all we have for you here on the show. I'm Blessed Sogah. Log on to myjoyonline.com. We'll have updates for you. Next is Let's Talk Showbiz. Thanks for watching.